Somewhere in your head right now, a conversation from 3 years ago is still playing on a loop you never agreed to. You're not thinking about it on purpose. It just showed up, uninvited, the way it always does, usually right when you're finally trying to fall asleep. Your brain isn't broken. It's just never once been taught how to stop. And almost nobody ever teaches it because almost nowhere actually treats that as a skill worth teaching. Except one place does. For 9 years straight, Finland has been ranked the happiest country on Earth, and it gets almost no sunlight for half the year. Sit with that for a second, because it should not make sense. No endless summer, no beach, no obvious reason on paper. And when researchers go looking for the actual explanation, it isn't wealth. Plenty of richer countries rank far lower. It's a handful of small, ordinary daily habits, repeated so consistently they stop feeling like habits at all, that seem to shut a racing mind down before it ever gets the chance to spiral in the first place. 8 of those habits, in the next few minutes, exactly why each one works, and how to steal one tonight. Habit 5 is the one almost nobody can actually keep, not because it's hard to understand, but because it means saying no to something you're addicted to. And habit 8 isn't a habit at all. It's the thing sitting underneath every other one on this list, and once you hear it, the rest of this video is going to make a lot more sense. Let's get into it. Quick note before we start. Finland technically isn't Scandinavian, it's Nordic, alongside Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Iceland, 5 countries with a lot of overlapping culture and history, but not quite the same map. Everything in this video pulls from across that whole Nordic region, so you'll hear all 5 names throughout, not just one. 1. Friluftsliv, going outside, on purpose, in basically any weather. It's a Norwegian word that roughly means open-air living, and it's not a weekend hobby there. It's closer to a baseline expectation. Rain, snow, 4 in the afternoon and already dark doesn't matter. People still go outside, and Nordic parents will bundle up a baby for a nap in the cold before they'll keep them inside all day. There's a real physiological reason this matters for a racing mind specifically. Natural light exposure helps regulate your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that governs when your brain actually feels sleepy versus wired. And a body that gets real daylight during the day produces melatonin on a cleaner schedule at night. A mind that's outside, moving, even for 15 minutes, has something to actually look at besides its own thoughts: a bird, the cold air on your face, the sound of your own footsteps, small anchors that pull attention out of a loop it's been stuck in for hours. Tonight's version of this doesn't require hiking boots. A walk around the block, no phone, right after you notice your thoughts starting to spiral. That's it. That's the whole habit. 2. Fika, the protected pause. In Sweden, Fika isn't grabbing a coffee to go, it's stopping completely. Sitting down, coffee, and something small to eat with someone else if you can manage it. It happens on a schedule in most workplaces there, genuinely built into the day, not squeezed into whatever's left over. Here's why that matters more than it sounds like it should. A mind that never fully stops moving doesn't get the chance to actually process anything. It just keeps adding new input on top of old, unprocessed input, which is a lot of what that looping conversation from 3 years ago actually is. Backlog finally getting its turn. Fika works because it's a full stop, not a faster lap, a genuine break in momentum rather than just a change of scenery while the to-do list keeps running underneath it. 15 minutes, no phone, actually sitting down once a day, not multitasked, not eaten at your desk while you keep working. A real pause on purpose. 3. Lagom, just enough. It's a Swedish idea that resists translation. Not too much, not too little, exactly enough, and it shows up everywhere from portion sizes to work hours to how big a house someone feels they need. But the version that matters most for a racing mind is quieter than any of that. It's permission to stop at enough instead of chasing more, indefinitely, on a treadmill with no actual finish line. A mind that's constantly measuring itself against more output, more achievement, more compared to someone else's version of a good life, never really gets to rest, because there's always another rung above it. Lagom asks a different question before bed. Was today enough? Not was it your best? Not was it more than yesterday? Not how it would look described to someone else. Was it enough? Try asking yourself that one question tonight, honestly, and notice how different it feels from the question you usually ask instead. We've covered getting outside, protecting a real pause, and asking a gentler question at the end of the day. Those 3 alone will change something. But the next habit is the one that trips people up more than any other on this list, because it's not really about a new activity. It's about taking something away. 4. Comfort with silence. If you've ever spent time with Finnish friends, you may have noticed something that can feel strange at first, a pause in conversation that just sits there, unfilled, and nobody rushes to fix it. In a lot of Western social settings, silence in conversation reads as awkward, something to patch over quickly with small talk. In Finland, it's just silence, and it's allowed to be there. Constantly performing conversation, always having the next thing to say ready, is its own kind of low-grade mental labor, running in the background even in casual moments that are supposed to be relaxing. A mind that's always on socially never actually gets a break, even during downtime, even at dinner with people it loves. The habit here is small and a little uncomfortable at first, at least the first few times you actually try it on purpose. The next time a conversation goes quiet, let it. Don't rush to fill it. See what happens if you just let the pause exist. 5. And here's the one that's genuinely hard to keep, because it isn't about doing something new. It's about refusing to do something you're used to doing. Leaving work at work. On-screen cue, kinetic text card here, 5, leave work at work, plus a few seconds of relevant B-roll, phone buzzing at dinner, a laptop closing. This is the mid-video dip point. Break the voiceover monotone visually here before continuing. In Denmark in particular, there's a strong, well-documented cultural expectation that the workday actually ends. Emails wait until tomorrow, and staying late isn't worn as a badge of honor the way it often is elsewhere. It's not that people there work less hard during the day. It's that the day has an actual edge to it, a line the job isn't supposed to cross. A mind that's still half working at 9 at night, checking one more email, thinking through tomorrow's meeting while trying to watch a show, never fully exits work mode, which means it's never fully resting either, even during hours technically labeled as personal time. This one takes real practice, more than any other habit on this list, and you'll probably fail at it a few times before it actually sticks, which is normal, not a sign you're doing it wrong. Pick 1 hour tonight where work genuinely doesn't exist, phone included, and protect it like it's a meeting you can't miss. Because in a very real sense, it is one, with yourself. 6, cold water right after heat. This one sounds intense, and the first time, it genuinely is. Across Finland, Sweden, and Norway, it's completely normal to go from a hot sauna straight into cold water, a lake, the sea, sometimes literally a hole cut in the ice. It's not about toughness for its own sake. Research into cold exposure has found real, measurable effects on mood and stress resilience, including shifts in norepinephrine and a genuine sense of mental clarity that a lot of people report immediately afterward, even if the science on exactly how long those effects last is still developing. What it does reliably do, even in a much smaller version, is interrupt a spiraling mental state almost instantly because your body is suddenly very busy dealing with cold water. And rumination has to wait its turn. You don't need a frozen lake. 30 seconds of cold water at the end of a normal shower is enough to feel the interruption, that jolt where your racing thoughts suddenly have nowhere to go because your whole body just demanded your full attention instead. It's uncomfortable. That's sort of the point. 7, walking with nowhere to be. Not a run, not a fitness walk being tracked and measured, just walking, often without even a clear destination in mind, the kind of walk where the point is the walk itself. It's a quiet, common habit across the Nordic countries, and it's different from exercise in one key way. There's no performance attached to it, nothing to hit, no pace to beat. A mind trying to solve a problem head-on often gets stuck circling the same few thoughts. A mind that's walking, with its body occupied and its eyes on the middle distance, tends to solve the same problem sideways, almost by accident. The way a good idea shows up in the shower instead of at your desk staring at the problem directly, willing it to resolve itself through sheer focus. 15 minutes, no destination, no podcast if you can manage it, phone in your pocket, just walking. We've gone through 7 personal habits now, and each one on its own genuinely helps. But there's a reason Nordic countries don't just have calmer individuals, they have calmer populations at scale across an entire society, and it's the last piece of this puzzle. Now, habit 8 isn't something you go do tonight the way you could with the first 7. It's the reason the first 7 work as well as they do over there in the first place. 8. It isn't really a habit at all. It's the floor underneath all the others. Nordic countries offer some of the most generous parental and family leave policies in the world, often well over a year of supported leave between 2 parents, alongside strong public health care and social safety nets that catch people during hard periods, rather than leaving them to manage alone. Here's why that belongs on a list about a calm mind specifically. A huge amount of background stress, the kind that quietly hums under everything else and makes every other habit on this list harder to actually practice, comes from uncertainty. What happens if I get sick? What happens if I need time for my family? What happens if things go wrong? When some of that uncertainty is genuinely reduced at a societal level, there's simply less chronic, low-grade fear sitting underneath a person's everyday thoughts, and the other 7 habits get a lot easier to actually keep, because the mind isn't fighting a constant undertow while it tries to rest. This one you can't build alone tonight, and that's worth sitting with, honestly, instead of pretending otherwise. But it's worth knowing it's there, because it reframes the whole list, and it's a genuinely different way of thinking about stress than most of us grew up with. These aren't just 7 tricks for a calmer mind, techniques to layer on top of an otherwise stressful life. They're what's left over, once a lot of baseline fear has already been handled elsewhere, which is a very different starting point than most people are working from. 8 habits. Time outside in any weather. A real, full-stop pause once a day, asking whether today was enough instead of whether it was more. Letting silence exist instead of rushing to fill it. An actual edge to the workday. Cold water to interrupt a spiral. A walk with nowhere to be. And underneath all of it, less background fear to fight against in the first place. None of these require a plane ticket to Helsinki. Most of them cost nothing and take under 20 minutes. So here's my question for you tonight. Out of these 8, which one do you think your mind actually needs the most right now, this week? Not in some ideal future version of your life. Tell me in the comments, because naming the one you're avoiding is usually the clearest sign of exactly which one to start with. And if this helped even a little, send it to the one person you know who's always running on empty. They'll probably read it right in the middle of their own loop, and honestly, that might be exactly the right moment.